Yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining.
What's up, Anna? Good to see you.
Likewise.
Are you still in are you still there?
I'm back to San Francisco. I
Okay,
landed like midday yesterday.
good. Glad you're back safe and
Yeah,
sound.
yeah, me too.
Awesome. So should we where should we dive in? I know Anna you're gonna lead this, but I'm also happy to take a stab at kind of filling folks in on the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Last Peace Talk, Fuego and I we shared a little bit about some of the things we've done in Poland, but it'd be great if you shared, I guess, some of the moments that stood out for you from the experience. Maybe any like learning moments for questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, definitely. So there's I think there's a bunch of takeaways from this trip. Um, I think first what we've learned is that the kind of mega nonprofits and NGOs have a varied impact. Some do good work. Some of kind of the more blue chip names, the Ukrainians and Polish people have been very disappointed with their impact given the amount of money they've raised. So, they kind of said, where are they? Like the ones that have raised the billions are nowhere to be found. So that was very concerning to me because um because these are the ones that have gotten the most money and people, organizations maybe gave their 10 or 20 million dollars to this big nonprofit that, isn't having impact and they may not have money left for, the ones having impact such as Peace DAO. And so it made me all the more motivated. I think what we've also seen is that the problems are not going away, even though we're talking about the war less in mainstream media. It's going on. It's just as horrifying. It's just as terrible for the Ukrainian people, and there's just as much work that needs to be done across the spectrum, from rescues to refugee aid to medical aid to many other things. So those are some of my high level thoughts, and happy to go deeper as well.
Yeah, I think it was especially interesting kind of on the first point that you've highlighted about the big NGOs, that it wasn't just the people, it was also like the government officials that we've met that were questioning. And you would think that they are normally working with these larger organizations. And sorry about the background noise. And that is something that they're also picking up on, as well as other organizations that are more local to Poland or Ukraine that this larger nonprofits would partner with. Like they would send, for example, aid that is convenient to them that they've purchased rather than responding to the needs that these local organizations are identifying as critical.
Yeah,
I'm wondering,
go ahead,
sorry,
Felix.
Ryan.
Go.
Was there like when you guys were over there, was there like a light bulb moment where you were like, wow, there's really a path here to change this? Because I mean, one question is when Representative Sparts was on, is she was just like, they're so huge and they have such a big seat also, in government with lobbying, that it's almost like how do you even take it on or sway public opinion? Because I think it's fair to say most people who are giving to these massive NGOs, they're doing it with good intentions, and they are thinking, well, I've done my part, and so how do we shine a spotlight on that, or do we need to?
It's a great question. I mean, I think that's gonna be our role, like something we have to convey when we talk about Peace Down marketing, press. I think, we should highlight what we're finding, which is the ineffectiveness of the folks with the most money. And I think our message needs to be maximum impact per dollar, right? Peace Now hasn't raised the most amount of money or nearly close to the most. There's a lot of organizations that have raised a lot more. But we have very tangible things to show with what we've done with the money, where near zero has gone to administrative overhead and it's all gone to direct impact projects. And I think that's going to be our lead message is we are an uncorruptible, highly efficient, low overhead, community driven organization, the first of its kind. And if you are somebody considering giving money to this cause, this is by far and large the best way to spend that money.
That's a good take. Yeah, I think it's actually smart from a marketing point of view. Rather than saying we're going to compete with getting big dollars, it's like we will do the most impact actually with the least amount of money that's required to do that impact, right? So that way we're really making a selling point out of the fact that we're not asking for millions of dollars. We're actually going to do this with much less, and then look what we have to show for it. And what do they have to show for it, right? That kind of attitude.
Exactly. You know, everyone's taking pride in dollars. We raised this many dollars. We don't, you know, and no one's talking about what they've done with the dollars and the impact. We're going to do the opposite. We're not going to take pride in how much money we've raised. We're going to take pride in how little money we needed to accomplish something. And I think that if we can show the world that we are the best stewards of capital, where we will make sure that even the smallest donation goes the furthest way, we could, and if we get known as for that, I think we could like completely, you know, change the world and become extremely popular.
Solid point. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Hey guys. Yeah, I think it's a remarkable thing what Peace DAO is doing on this front. And something I've been thinking about is creating a simple graphic that expresses the difference between the overhead costs that Peace DAO has spent compared to the impact dollars that they've spent, and kind of it doesn't have to get too into detail about exactly where those dollars have gone. It could, but something that's like a memeable graphic that easily expresses the difference between Peace DAO and some of the larger NGOs. And so I guess some data would be really helpful to assembling a graphic like that. I was wondering if you guys had some good sources to look to for data on some of the NGOs' expenses, overhead costs, and the impact that they've made so far, other than, like, I mean, the most valuable thing is the on-the-ground visibility that you guys have at this point. But I was wondering what you thought about that as far as sources for data that we can use to create a memeable graphic like that.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, that should be our North Star. And I think we should pull together some materials on what we've done, which with a modest amount of money, and pull those impact stats. I think it's a great idea. And, you know, there's some crazy anecdotes that we heard, like the Red Cross, for instance. They, you know, raised how many billions of dollars for Ukraine? And according to the people, Ukrainians and Polish people, they're nowhere to be found. They, and in certain refugee centers, they had these Red Cross tents that looked great, and the only thing in the tents was aspirin, which like nobody needs, right? They need like a million other things, but it was basically what I've started to call as philanthropy theater. Like literally just looking good, zero effectiveness, total waste of money. They just want to show that they have a tent there. Who knows what backdoor deals are going on behind the scenes with like the aspirin companies. And and how the money is actually who's deciding in the philanthropy theater business or is in the actual impact business?
I think so. So two quick comments. Um, the first one is that the idea of to see is really kind of core to the agree with that, because fundamentally, what the blockchain ecosystem, everything that DeFi and crypto is surrounding, is it's offering a more match, basically to match either and match people's marginal benefits. So if we're arguing basically whether it, like a bloated, just simple negligence, not necessarily maliciousness, or through some kind of special interest malicious, the ultimate goal is that we can match the needs of someone to the solution for those needs more effectively than anywhere else. And we have the infrastructure that's proven to support that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is exactly why we exist, right? Fully transparent giving. All of our work is transparent. The results are transparent. And that's kind of, if people are like, why do you need a DAO? This is exactly why you need a DAO. We can do transparent, efficient, impact work better than anyone.
Yeah. And I also thought like one of the interesting arguments that normally like larger organizations or governments give for not supporting more impactful initiatives like we're supporting, if there is accountability, or that like the traditional bureaucracy helps solve this whole problem of like we need to make sure there's no bad actors taking the money. And I think it is kind of a first of its kind solution that Peace DAO is providing, where there's a technology that allows for this radical transparency in terms of where the money are going, and every transaction is recorded on blockchain, it's immutable, and can always show who the funding went to. And then from their social media activity and from the direct reports that we give, we can show that the funds have been used as intended.
Yep. And one of the other things I've realized is that we can be essentially the execution arm to a nonprofit. So nonprofits are really fundraising machines. They're great at marketing. They're great at fundraising. They have varied ability in terms of executing. But what if they can go do the events and do the fundraising and do the marketing and then partner with us and say, okay, here's the capital. Let's work with Peace DAO to actually deploy it.
So Ryan, I like that. And sorry for the absence. The last month and a half has been crazy for me, but I think that's absolutely spot on. Especially when you consider the power that these nonprofits have when it comes to lobbying as well, and working across, whenever you look at international aid, there's the complications of the legalities and the government, the specifics with each government. So I think if they're the fundraisers and they handle a lot of the administrative, legal side of the efforts, being able to tie into a much more efficient way than to spend the dollars raised for people that are who receive the best and the largest impact is a new way of looking at the operations of like NGOs and international humanitarian aid.
Exactly. I think if we do our jobs right, there should be very few NGOs that actually need to do execution themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they have like some really special way of doing it, which some do. but the majority should be able to leverage our DAO. And maybe we work on special types of proposals just for that NGO. They want proposals with this type of flavor or focus on refugees versus reporters. But I think this is it's a big opportunity we have here.
Agreed. And one point, just from my personal experience that I saw was, as international organizations come into another country, the cost of bringing in the personnel, but also all the materials, is exponentially higher than just funding people already in that space, already involved to go execute. So you have operational efficiencies right off the bat, let alone you have people who have a much better understanding of where that aid and where the impact that we're talking about needs to go. And so I think there's a case for, I think I forget who mentioned it, but whether I think it was Maiko, but the infographic, but even like a white paper of showing the disruptive model that a DAO like Peace DAO would bring to humanitarian aid and these NGOs in just an operational standpoint, let alone the accountability standpoint.
Point. One thing where I would jump in, and I think now we're kind of getting to a really important fork in the road here, is how this messaging is going to go now, right? Because on one hand, the messaging can be and arguably justifiably and rightly adversarial, as in, look at these NGOs are dropping the ball and look what we're doing. On the other hand, it would be absolutely amazing to partner with a large NGO and actually be able to get them to use that money more effectively, in which case we don't want to take a line that necessarily is adversarial, but we also do want to bring attention to the fact that there are ways, as Ryan pointed out, to execute really elegantly and efficiently that are not being taken advantage of right now, and that we've kind of shown a proof of concept or blueprint for.
So I think that's actually a really messaging point that would probably resonate with NGOs and not be combative. So grouping, obviously, like maybe including the largest of them, but there's a huge segment of NGOs that raise millions, even billions of dollars that are basically struggling to find a way to deploy that. And if we offer them basically the way to deploy that, I think that is a good proposition for them, because you can over-raise an event for your ability to donate it. And we've run into that with a lot of problems. Like, that's why NGOs do studies on how effective their deployment of mosquito or malaria prevention are in like Ghana or something like that, because they understand that you are giving away, they're only capable of giving away chunk donations in the millions for some of them. There's no way to tie that, like the bridge, that chunk of money, an individual person getting helped really isn't there. And that's what the framework provides.
Yep. I think we're in violent alignment here. And so now our challenge, I think we've proven that we can execute at a certain scale. We have a lot more to prove, of course, but now our challenge is, how do we get the word out? How do we build this reputation? And so I think our social strategy, our marketing strategy, our BD and partnership strategy is going to be really important as a next step. And that's one of the other things that we did during this trip, is we met with certain allies, whereby we believe their endorsements are going to really move the needle, such as the U.S. ambassador to Poland, the First Lady of Ukraine, and multiple others who were seeking some formal endorsement from, which would help with those efforts.
Yeah, I think we were also told you guys got some video and audio, which will probably be very impactful and powerful for messaging campaign and socials.
Yeah, we did. And we got some great materials from the trip. So I think flexing our social muscle, making noise about who we are, why we exist, what our mission um, is something that we have to develop. All right, so maybe we can talk about some next steps. Anna, do you want to talk about maybe some next steps in terms of what we're going to do with the materials from this trip? Any outstanding proposals, etc.
Yeah, I think our main areas of strategies, as mentioned, like following up on the endorsement mentions and making sure that that's something we can show for like on our website and also sharing the social media. Another part, I think we're putting the material from the trip into a form of a podcast. And also sharing things on Twitter, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that all sounds right. And John and Fuego couldn't make it today, so he's working on some of that as well. I personally am working on helping tee up some great press. Working with Anna and Fuego on getting those endorsements solidified. And also putting on a networking event to continue to spread the word about the DAO. So those are some of the things that projects I'm working on. But if others, obviously this is a community effort. So if others have ideas on how else we can spread the word and make the noise, please chime in.
Hey Ryan, one thought here. It's not anything new. It's maybe just more of a clarification of one of the things we talked about in terms of flexing our social media muscles. Um, I think as a collective, it'd be really interesting if we came with a call to action. So, for example, we've donated money, we've seen impact. We believe that impact is more substantial than these large NGOs are providing. But invite people. So create an invitation to people who are interested in what's happening in Ukraine to say, hey, if you want to be connected to the actual source of where your impact's going, invite them to start, like whether it's donating or be a part of the conversation, and then tie that to like personal stories. Because you had mentioned earlier, everyone's like caught up in how many dollars raised. And unfortunately, that's oftentimes where it goes. It goes just to impact stats, dollars raised, number of meals provided, people evacuated, but it lacks that personal connection. And so if we can say that, hey, a DAO not only allows you to make sure that your dollar goes to the highest impact, but invite you into a conversation here where you can become part of seeing the impact and the personal connection to where it goes. I wonder if there's a way we could craft that message and call to action throughout our sort of social platforms.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rice Cracker. Which is, if I hear you correctly, one, making a story out of all of our impact projects,
Right.
and two, whenever we post about it, always remind people, that they can easily become a part of the next story. Did I get that right?
Yeah, because I would say we have an audience on both sides. our audience is the NGOs, where we are showing them there's a more efficient way and a better way to distribute their aid and provide the dollars that they've raised and put them into action. And then also it's the people who truly have a heart for what's happening, in this case in Ukraine, and want to get involved and see the actual impact and that human connection at play. And so it's
Yep.
I would say it's a little bit more of the audience that's focused on like that personal connection of like the one-to-one relationship with people and inviting them into this. Because I would also say I just know, looking at my schedule the last 6 weeks, it's been hard to get away from my daily life. So the more people we can get a part of this community and contributing, the better as well.
I agree.
Yeah,
And I
I love
think,
that idea.
yeah, and I think, as our focus should definitely be marketing to the people, right? And I think the partnerships will follow and actually benefit from that versus marketing to the NGOs first. I think we got to be a people first movement. And I think many of us are in alignment with that, and the partnerships will come. So I agree. I think we got to get more people involved. And a great pitch that I've also started using is, if you want to get involved in helping Ukraine or spread peace, to get involved with an NGO or a nonprofit, it's a lot of work. You have to like apply for jobs and go through interview processes. And whereas here, you literally log in to Discord and you're a member. And the more merit you bring, the more of a voice you have and the more impact you could have. So frictionless volunteer work is also something that's so unique about this community.
What I could see, what I was, as you were talking, Ricecracker and Ryan, the way I envisioned this is, and some organizations kind of do this where, let's say you donate and then they send you like kind of a little package, and every 3 months they send you an update, so that if you're signed on for like monthly billing, you get like explanation of where your money's going. But the added thing where this is special is if you tell, part of donating is we're going to help people overseas, we're going to help them in this issue or that issue, but with that invite is like you can actually take part in the conversation, and you can meet the people who are really working on this, and you can have little teams, so that would be like channels in Discord. Like now, for instance, we have House of Bread. There's a House of Bread team, and there's people who just want to give money, but other people might say, you know what, I want to actually, even if it's just dabbling, I want to have the ability to dabble and get in there and help a little bit when I can. That's after work, if that's on my lunch break. And so then it completely becomes people driven, and the donors do become part of the team, right? And you can highlight those. You can make little, this is our team pages. So that's a really unique approach that I think people will be really down and excited for, because I don't know of anyone else who's taking that kind of approach to fundraising or social causes, activism kind of things.
It's such a good point. It is such a good point. Let's just, we got to tell our friends and our networks, like, hey, come spend 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week, check out the chats, comment, join a peace talk, right? It doesn't take a lot to have a lot of impact. I think we've all had a lot of impact without, we've obviously all dedicated time, but it's a great point. So I think social is key. I think if Peace DAO as a core team, if we can produce some epic content, we can lean on all of the individuals in this group to recruit more. Like at Bolt, our most effective recruiting strategy was our team. And not just telling our team to, hey, go recruit, but actually Bolt helping the team, Bolt as the company, creating really high quality materials. And then we use the team to amplify. We post things and everyone else would amplify, right? So we may not have 1 million people in this group, but Felix Sander, if you create some really epic stories and content about this trip, about our projects. We put it out there, and then everyone in here shares with their network, whether it's on Twitter or LinkedIn. We're gonna, I mean, this, and then those people join, and those people do the same thing. We can very organically get a lot of momentum here.
Agree 100%.
Agree. Hey, Felix Ander, maybe what we do is I don't know if Notion's the right place to do it, but maybe we just start creating sort of a work list of content that needs to be created, whether it's campaign assets for social and like what the call to actions are, the specific ones across the board. But whether if you have a preference, like I think what we can do is if we put our minds our brains together, we could list out what those are, and then we can just start working against that list and drain it. Because I think that's been my biggest challenge is once all the assets are created, it's really easy to then mobilize people to say, okay, just amplify this, share it, promote it. But it's that initial content creation. So if we know what we need to create and we have a list of it, then we can call upon the few people here to help knock those off the list.
I agree. I think that's a good idea. I would say so. One is having that list of maybe to-do items and needs, and then on the other end is that if we can just get all the raw content we have in one spot, whether that's organizations we're working with, the updates, whether that's video, audio content, and that way, when we start crafting these messages and stories, we can pull on all that and make something really special, and that content can get used again. It's not like a one-time use, but for tweets, having a short little video thing would be amazing. And Fuego did reach out and ask me also about putting together, if I knew editors or something like that for the video content. So I think also eventually having a long form video that will, really hammer home what the situation's like with actual, images and moving images will be a big deal. But yeah, I'm down for that, Rice Bear.
Cool. I have a great video editor if you need it, and he does documentaries and he has a voice like Morgan Freeman. So
Okay, perfect.
he's cheaper than Morgan Freeman though.
Outstanding.
So Felix Ander, maybe what I'll do is I don't know what I can use Google Docs or Notion, whatever's best. I'll probably jump into Notion, and then maybe what we do is we just collaborate on creating whatever that list of content that's required, and then you and I can talk offline to figure out where do we collect all that information, whether it's as you mentioned the videos, the images, the stories, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
fine. Notion, Google Docs, whatever, I'm fine with all of that. So that's perfect.
yeah, and I'll make sure that Figo and I are available and like we'll share the content that might be needed for this.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. So I've got to hop a few minutes early. Anyone feel free to continue the convo, but I think as far as next steps, Rice Cracker, Felix Ander, epic content, P1. Thank you both for kind of being willing to spend time on that. I think that's our key unlock. I'll be working with Fuego, Anna on the endorsements, on the some degree of press as well. And some of the alliances and people we can bring on as advisors like Spart and others who I've stayed close with. And then let's just keep making incremental progress every day, every week, and pushing this forward.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right.
Amazing.
Team.
Thank you for joining.
Of course. Thank you all.
Awesome. Is there anything else you think we should discuss, or should we just stop it here?
I'm good. I guess we'll connect with you
Yep.
about content stuff, but yeah, that's terrific. I think there's a lot to do now, so we're
Yeah.
just gonna get right to it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.